And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Tuesday morning showing IFR here, still from the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. IFR here over the northeast interior, but a lot of VFR over the remainder of mainland Alaska. Patch of IFR here over the southeast Bering Sea, and a smaller zone there, just southern Kodiak Island. And a little bit of IFR for the Lincoln Glacier Bay area, the southern southeast coast, so looking pretty good, VFR. And for Tuesday afternoon, mostly VFR here across all the southeast coast. VFR for the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound. Western Prince William Sounds could see some marginal VFR as a little bit of moisture slides up from the east-southeast across Montague Island there. Otherwise, good VFR here in the interior. IFR, a little bit smaller there, maybe pulling back from the Brooks Range a little bit, but still covering the North Slope and Arctic coast. And a little band of IFR here, just south of Cape Newenham, back around, clipping St. George Island, right on down in toward Unimak Island. And then for Wednesday morning, IFR still over the southeast Bering Sea, down to the eastern Aleutians to about Atka Island. And IFR here pushing northward, kind of a growing area here over the southern Gulf of Alaska, gradually shifting up to the north. And marginal VFR for the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country there, up across into the Yukon Flats. IFR, eastern, central, north slope, and Arctic coast. And for the afternoon, that whole area of IFR pulls northwestward with increasing southeast wind flow here, spreading IFR conditions up to the North Gulf Coast, westward across Prince William Sound into Whittier, maybe Portage. IFR on the increase for the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. IFR afternoon for Kodiak Island. No change up here from the North Slope and the Arctic coast. And IFR now from Nunivak Island, southwest across the Pribilofs, to about False Pass, westward to roughly Adak. And for the passes, both Anatuvik and Adigan tomorrow, going marginal VFR with possible IFR in the northern entrance of both passes. And Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Good day for rainy as well, wide open there. Windy, VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mintasta, VFR as well. Antonita, VFR. Portage, VFR, but increasing marginal VFR threat here on the eastern entrance as you were, especially into the afternoon toward evening. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. For the freezing levels here, 2,000 feet up to southern Prince of Wales Island, otherwise well south of everywhere else here. At the surface, Kodiak Island, off the North Gulf Coast, and then cutting southeastward there along the southern coast of the Panhandle. And at the surface out here, south of St. Matthew Island, but now north of the Pribilofs. And for icing, could be a little bit of isolated, moderate rime or mixed icing here, maybe for the eastern Aleutian areas, but that not very significant, just a slight threat. A little bit better chance here with some moisture coming northward with that frontal system that's elongating from west to east here, bringing possible considerable moderate icing into southern Kodiak Island and also the southern southeast coast. And looking at the jet stream here, we've got a pretty good upper level high pressure area at 33,000 feet there over the Chukchi Sea. That giving northeast flow at about 65 knots there across the northwest interior, turning east-southeast at 65 across St. Lawrence Island. And then westerly 65 knots there around Destruction Bay, and then increasing there over Canada. As you can see, the main jet well to the south. And for 9,000 feet, low pressure here west of the Queen Charlotte's, keeping the strongest winds to the south and east of the Panhandle, with light wind conditions across southern Alaska. This high up here over the Chukchi Sea, and a weak upper low there over the western Alaska Range, giving northeast winds 40 to 50 knots across the western Brooks Range. And then 45 knot southeast winds here over the south central Bering Sea with that, and about 30 knots there for Kodiak Island. 3,000 feet here, low pressure right about in this position, giving northerly winds 35 knots to Adak and Atka. Otherwise, east-southeast 45 knots associated with this low for Kodiak Island. And then a general east-northeast wind flow here around that big high there now at this elevation just off the Arctic coast. 45 knots there for the western Arctic coast. 35 knots here over the central interior. And then this storm here coming up toward the Queen Charlotte Islands, bringing 55-knot winds there into Dixon Entrance with lighter winds over the southern panhandle. But that'll be close enough to put some considerable moderate turbulence in here for the southern southeast coast, and also for Kodiak Island into the Aleutian Range, along the Yukon River here down in toward the Nulato Hills, Norton Bay area, eastern Norton Sound, and also for the DeLong Mountains. Otherwise light to isolated moderate here for the eastern southeast Bering Sea from Adak Island right on up in toward Kodiak.